so I learned this fancy new term, cultural appropriation. I was speaking with my son and he told me that at his high school they were choosing which musical to make. The first choice was Mulan, about this Chinese warrior girl who kicks everybody's butt.
I've heard a great deal about you, Famula.
It is awesome, great story, great songs, girl power. Also there is this little dragon, lots of fighting scenes. It's a great musical, right? Apparently no, they cannot do this musical unless all the actors are Chinese, otherwise it is this cultural appropriation. Apparently it would be offensive to cast white people into those Chinese roles. In my son's high school, in the theater crowd, there are some Chinese kids, but not enough, and this would be a very small musical. It would be like Fa Mulan herself and the emperor and maybe the dragon. Actually, for the dragon, they would have to find like a real dragon, not to insult the dragon kind. Also, in this musical, the bad guys, the Huns, and who's going to play those?
Soldier from the mountains.
Attila the Hun has been dead for a while, and the Huns, forgive my ignorance, maybe there are still Huns or their descendants? Are there any Huns among my followers? If so, please comment below. You might score a really cool part in a High School Musical. Anyways, with all of this, they're not going to do Mulan. Next, the kids really wanted to do Coco, which is based on this beautiful animation by Pixar.
What's going on? I'm just dreaming.
It's about this boy named Miguel who gets transported into the land of the dead. It's inspired by the Mexican holiday, the Day of the Dead. If you have not seen it, please check it out. It's a beautiful story, great animation, wonderful songs, and it praises the Mexican culture. And no, they cannot do this one either, because in my son's high school there are not enough Mexican kids in the theater crowd to play all the roles. Too many gringos, if you know what I mean. So no Mulan, no Coco. I guess they're gonna have to stick to some kind of white people's musicals. Oh, you know what the worst part is? It's not the teachers who pushed back, it's the students themselves. Decided not to make those musicals. They self-censored because they're so indoctrinated, they're so afraid to offend anybody, they lost all common sense. Like, yes, if you're Steven Spielberg in Hollywood and you have a $400 million budget, maybe you can find the actor of the right lineage, but to have to do that at the high school level, it's ridiculous. It sets us back in time, it's parochial, it's completely counterproductive. It makes us smaller, it makes us stick to our own knitting, as it were, instead of expanding, instead of getting to know other cultures and celebrating and appreciating those. Like, you know, the musical movie Fiddler on the Roof, a production from 50 years ago?
A Fiddler on the Roof.
It's a great movie adaptation of stories by Sholem Aleichem. That was his pen name. His real name was Solomon Rabinovich. It's about a bunch of Jews in the shtetl, somewhere in Russia, and in the middle of it all there's Tevye and his 6 daughters. So as I said, this musical is about Jews in old Russia. But you know what? The movie director, Norman Jewison, despite his Jewish-sounding last name, was actually not Jewish. And for the cast, well, some of them were Jews, like Chaim Topol, but the rest are not Jews. Nor do they have to be, because they're actors. And that's what actors do. They act.
I am Count Olaf, the renowned actor.
They transform themselves into those characters. It is literally their job description. And this would be a very sad world if we could only play our own kind. And speaking of the sad world, do you know how the story ended in my son's school, how they were choosing the musical? Well, they chose some kind of a no-name bland musical. No, I cannot remember the name. Nobody likes it, and songs are kind of meh. Oh, and because there are not enough boys in the cast, the girls get to play a lot of boys' parts. Wouldn't that be some kind of a gender appropriation? Which I don't have a problem with, I just don't understand why they couldn't do Mulan in the first place. I'll tell you what, fanatics, if anybody decides to make Crazy Russian Dead the musical or the rock opera, there was Crazy Russian Dead. You have my permission and a blessing for anybody to play the part of Crazy Russian Dead. They do not have to be crazy or Russian or be a dead. If they have the right accent, they can absolutely be me. Even if you're a Chinese, a Mexican, a Han, a dragon, you can still be Crazy Russian Dead. That's my story and I'm sticking to it. Good night.